Hola, mi amigos, it's time for RWBY Volume 3, the start of RWBY's controversial streak of volumes. Aside from 5, because basically everyone agrees that's pretty crappy. Volume 3 is, in my opinion, the best volume. Although maybe that's wrong to say. On a technical and writing level, Volume 4 is probably better, but it still drops the ball with Yang and Oscar. It just had too much stuff in it. That's another can of worms to open though. I'd rather not open it now. Volume 3 is my favourite, probably because of all the hype, really, and I say that, it's pretty sad. And the fact this was before RWBY had this shadow of poop over it. But let's get started. Number 12. This was admittedly not the best start for the volume. In fact, I think the episodes dedicated to just the Vital Festival and what happens in it are probably the worst. New challenges exist. I mean, seriously though, these episodes are the worst. You just go watch Mediocrity 4's video on the Vital Festival tournament if you want to know why it itself is shit, but this episode is really the epitome of why. The battles are boring, they're slow, there's no tension, aside from a cool shot or funny background detail here and there, there's nothing, it's bad. I can excuse this due to Monty's unfortunate passing, but I can't with good faith recommend this episode. I mean, given how quickly they skimmed over the round 2 Juniper fight, which is a big no-no for a tournament arc, given they are the main secondary characters, I'm surprised they even bothered with this episode. In fact, maybe after seeing how bad this was and how overpowered they made Nora, they just went, yeah, let's not do that. Then there's the Sun fight, arguably better, arguably worse. It's still rubbish with an anticlimactic ending that wasn't earned. And the way they dealt with Scarlet and Sage, especially the latter, was extremely insulting. God, this episode's garbage. Number 11. New challenges was a bad start, but this bad start is actually a bad start. What the fuck am I saying? Round 1 is mainly brought down by the big chunk associated with the Vital Festival. We get a big ass exposition dump that I'm not too fond of, but at least it's not new challenges with its pausing while Nora gets violently tased, and worse off is whatever RWBY vs. Arvin was trying to achieve. I remember the hype over this team and how it dropped immediately after this episode. Bowl in his waist, Reese was the favourite and got pretty badly defeated. Nadir is totally rubbish, and the only competent member is just, I remember the people who went on about how the show is feminist due to Nadir and Bowl in this episode, and I kinda see where they're coming from, but that theory is rubbish, because all feminist theories are rubbish. I mean, just look at Crow, he's a competent male fighter. But this episode is just bad. The best part is a teeny little Cinders team who don't even get a name. Maybe their team's semen. You know, the moment where they curb stomp this random generic in a biomeless field because fuck consistency. A lot of the jokes failed to hit home for me, and I had to get used to the more anime-esque visual choices. Man, the Vital Festival was pretty trashy in hindsight. So this is what happens when you put a fight in almost every episode. Number 10. Lessons learned exists. I don't know why it exists, but it does anyway. Another Vital Festival-centric one, and another pretty boring and poorly made fight with only a few decent moments. There's so little to talk about with why this is bad, it just is. I do like winter stuff and some of RWBY and Yang with Crows, especially the latter, but I can't get past how bad this fight is, and also how stupid Coco and Yatsuhashi are. Number 9. Arguably the best of the early Vital Festival tournament episodes, never miss a beat, has an awful start but an actual decent battle. The main fight in this battle is actually quite good overall, but aside from that, the battle has little reason to be a thing. I mean, isn't Team Funky just a joke that Rooster Teeth made when at an RTX one day? Number 8. Fall is great. Somewhat. Well, I'm a bit completely livid. They thought it right to make a world of remnant about the maidens and explain absolutely nothing new about them. I do like the explaining that goes on here. The maidens really opened up the world and lore of RWBY to encompass more things, and it could have been pretty great if, you know, they grew a brain and used the concept right. The Yang and Mercury fight is pretty good. I mean, it could have been better, but this should at least be the standard for most fights in the series. Number 7. This episode is where the plot truly started happening. Battle of Beacon was just a big mash of fighting and shit. Now, none of the fighting is that great. The episode has plenty of good. Weiss and Blake together was great to see and decent. The dragon got its only really cool moment here by blowing the entire top of a mountain to pieces by just waking up, and even causing Glinda Goodwish to shit her incredibly powerful pants. Ironwood gets a badass moment of utterly curb stopping this Grim, and the obliteration of this Nevermore is amazing. This episode is mindless fun, but far from the best. Number 6. PvP is the closest the tournament gets to being good. It's one of the very few battles I can enjoy in any mood, and while I easily predicted Pyrrha and Penny would both die in this volume, the way in which Penny went was fucking fantastic. And basically the only way they could do a brutal kill without getting all gory. The volume really only starts at the end of this episode. This is just a good episode overall, with the highlight being that quality fight scene. I really do love the fight, and the episode also provides good riffing material as to why the whole tournament is stupid. That's it. Number 5. The episode is another episode just here for the fight, but given that was Volume 3's theme, what do you expect? It's Brawl and the Family is a good, tight, solid episode with a pun in the name. I like it, it's good. Crow vs. Winner was fantastic, there was good comedy, it's great, so on. Number 4. The episode in which shit really hit the fan, and it all starts with the dragon being an afterthought. Heroes and Monsters is amazing. It's probably the best episode in the volume. It is the best episode in the volume, but it's not my favorite. There's some really standout moments, and really I think the reason I have it here is just the RWBY vs. Neo and Roman fight, because this is a fantastic moment. Sure, Yang getting her arm cut off and Amber dying are oh shit moments in this Velvet scene, which, no, but, you know. Number 3. Destiny, the one episode with no fight scene. You might notice I'm a fan of those episodes that slow down a little and let us explore the characters a bit more, and this is certainly one of them. There's not a whole lot in this episode, but I really like what there is. It's one of the few times we get to explore Pyrrha as a character and not an overpowered Mary Sue. I also like the Yang and Crow talking about Raven scene, and the RWBY and Velvet scene, mostly because RWBY gets to show she has actual brain cells. It's just a nice, quiet episode. I like it. Number 2. It's amazing how much I like an episode that doesn't explain nearly enough for me to care. Beginning of the End is fantastic, just for the fact that it's a villain-based episode. Villains are instrumental to a series, and when you have overarching villains instead of a new villain each episode, one must ensure they are well characterized and expanded, fleshed out and all that. No. An episode revolving around them can do just that. This episode does its best with RWBY's hokey writing. We get an explanation of how Cinder met all the people we knew at the time to be in her death harem, all aside from Neo, of course. The episode is something I want more of. More episodes revolving around the villains and exploring their characters, however shallow as a piss puddle they may be. The Maiden was cool to see, and the fight is actually pretty decent. The only flaws of this episode are there just isn't enough explored, and the Crow really shouldn't have scared them off as Cinder had half the Maiden power. Now please, give us more of this instead of making every villain as shallow as a puddle of piss. Number 1. Woo! End of the beginning is awesome. What can I say? This is the payoff I wanted from Volume 2. There's action, there's quiet character moments, there's a cliffhanger, there's all this stuff, and it's great. The Silverites have their only good moment, and it's pretty awesome. At least one to one more answers, which is rare for RWBY, because more often than not, you just scream why. The battle with Cinder and Pyrrha is one of the best fights in the series. Pyrrha's death was a legitimately sad moment that was not captured at all with Weiss getting stabbed in Volume 5, and Tai Yang is actually good in this episode. The quiet moment at the end is great, and the crazy fighting at the start is fantastic. I know people complained about Pyrrha dying, but I think that was the right climax to a character arc. She feels this is her responsibility, this is her fault. If she had taken the power earlier, she could have prevented everything. So she decides to make her final stand. Even if she dies, all she wants to do is buy some time. I think the only flaws of the episode is the extremely disappointing Ozpin and Cinder fight that we couldn't actually see, because if we did, either Cinder would be too overpowered, beating Ozpin, or Ozpin would win. And the fact that RWBY got sad over Pyrrha dying more than Yang's arm getting hacked off, despite sharing virtually no lines with Pyrrha. In fact, the only time they engaged in a conversation was in RWBY Chibi that came after, and in a bonus scene added to the DVD and Blu-ray release of Volume 1, literally just to bridge the two parts of Forever Fall together. Honestly, Heroes and Monsters is probably the best episode. It really probably is, in the same way Burning the Candle is the best episode of Volume 2. But something about End of the Beginning personally connects with me, personally brings me more joy than any other episode in the volume. Is it nostalgia? Is it blind love? I don't know what it is. And because of that End of the Beginning is and always will be my favorite Volume 3 episode. So that was Volume 3. It was very good. I really like this volume, and I think it's most of those last two episodes that more of that is what we need in RWBY. Having a lot of plot, not too condensed, but not too thrown out and spread. Fucking dog. We don't need Volume 4 cramming everything into too short a time span, or Volume 5 cramming nothing into too long a time span. We need actual fucking stuff happening.